Hello, good morning, everyone. Warm greetings from the paradise island of Bali, Indonesia. And this is Lumika Anggraini, and welcome to the webinar, Film Tourism Destination Branding and Experience. Since the early 20th century, film and television became the main mass media outlet and has been particularly effective in affecting tourism. Film tourism or screen tourism is a phenomenon regarding the tourist activities inspired by cinema shows to visit related places and destinations featured in films. Film is not only an excellent communication medium for branding and marketing for tourism destination, but also presents development opportunities and innovation in new themes, experiences, and products, especially post-pandemic. Today's webinar is going to be a very special one, not only because Bali Dwipa University is celebrating its 4th anniversary this July. Firstly, I would like to welcome Dr. Ketut Suryasi, Director of Bali Dwipa University. Om Swastiastu, good morning. Dr. Ketut Suryasi.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming. And the Chairman of Yayasan Pendidikan Usaha Teknik Bali Educational Institute, Dr. Iwayan Atnyana. Om Swastiastu, Dr. Iwayan Atnyana. Thank you for your support.
Om Swastiastu.
Yeah, thank you. We are with Bali Tourism Board. I would like to come the Chairman of Bali Tourism Board, Mr. Ida Bagus Agung Parta Atnyana, also known as Mr. Busagung. Om Swastiastu, good morning, Mr. Busagung.
Morning, selamat pagi to Dwipa University.
Yes, thank you very much for collaborating with Bali Dwipa University in this webinar. Apparently, in this film tourism webinar, we have 2 Italian speakers today, and they are hearing live from the United States of America, which is very interesting. So I would like to proudly present our keynote speaker, Dr. Marta Soligo from University of Nevada, Las Vegas, which will explain about film tourism, destination branding, and marketing. Good evening, Dr. Marta. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I hope this is just the beginning of a long collaboration with Bali Dwipa University.
Thank you very much. So we are looking forward to your contribution in this webinar. Thank you so much for coming. And here with us also is a film producer from Hollywood, California, airing from Los Angeles, Andrea Pasketin, who will be sharing his filming experience in Bali. Good evening, Andrea.
Yes, good evening. Selamat pagi, everybody. Good morning.
Yes, we're looking forward to your presentation too. And this webinar aims to contribute to the knowledge of film tourism or screen tourism as a branch of cultural tourism from the perspective of both academic and film industry, and suggest some recommendations to the tourism stakeholder. To begin with, I would like to invite Dr. Iwayan Atnyana from Yayasan Pendidikan Usaha Teknik Bali to give a welcome remark. Dr. Iwayan Atnyana, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Lumika. Om Swastiastu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Good morning, everybody, and maybe good evening for Dr. Marta Soligo and Andrea Pasketin. How are you?
Good morning. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Yeah, dear Dr. Marta Soligo, postdoctoral research faculty, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, USA, and Andrea Pasketin, film producer, Hollywood, California, USA, as speaker in this webinar. Thank you very much for your participation. And dear Mr. Ida Bagus Agung Patra Atnyana, Gus Agung, we call Chairman of the Bali Tourism Board. Welcome all you to the Bali Dwipa University campus. Thank you very much for your willingness and participation as a speaker in this webinar. The Honorable Mrs. Dr. Engineer Ketut Suryasi, Chancellor of Bali Dwipa University Indonesia, we call Rector of Bali Dwipa University, the Dean, Head of Study Programs, Lectures, staff, and students of the Bali Dwipa University. And dear Honorable Mr. Professor Dr. Insinyur Nyaman Sucipto, as Quality Guarantor of the Bali Dwipa University, dear readers and lecturers from campus everywhere who join in this webinar, as Udayana University, ICOM, Institute, and all. And dear all webinar participants. First of all, let us express our gratitude to God the Almighty, because by His grace we are now all in good health and well-being and can participate in this webinar. This webinar has held in the series of the 4th anniversary of the Bali Dwipa University, which fell on July 17th, 2022. Bali Dwipa now is 4 years old now, we are grateful because, like a baby, we can face COVID-19 safely. We committed to develop Bali Dwipa University as innovative campus with our spirit are creative, innovative, and excellent. The theme of this webinar is very appropriate, namely film tourism, destination, branding, and experience. Cinematic tourism, film tourism, including tourism, or screen tourism is fenomena, phenomenon regarding tourism activities inspired by cinema, those to visit related place shown in film, of course. Film is not only an excellent communication medium for marketing and managing tourism destination, but also present develop opportunities and innovation in themes, experience, and new tourism product, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. Bali Dwipa University, which is fully supported by the foundation, Yayasan Pendidikan Usaha Teknik Bali, the name of foundation, as the organizing body takes participate in developing film in Bali and Indonesia generally, with the hope that film can become the right, good, and professional media for the development of public business activities, including tourism, for promoting existing tourism objects and the cultural life of the people, for the goods and services to produce and offered by the public. In this way, developing and prosperous society will be achieved, of course. With film, we can see the beauty of the island of Bali and how the friendly its people. With film, we can raise the public art. With film, we can raise product, public and industrial handicraft, both small, medium, and large scale, of course. So they are quickly recognized by customers, so their product will sell out, we hope, With film, we can hope educational story, fun and happy story. With movie, there's much more we can do, of course. Maybe if in America there's Hollywood, in India there is Bollywood, then Bali Dwipa University, in synergy with the provincial government of Bali and Balinese people, hope to create Balinese film center in Bali, and maybe we can call Bollywood, like that. We need help and support, of course, from you, Mrs. Martha and Mr. Andrea. We look forward to making cooperation with both of you personally and your institution. And then we need help and support, of course, from the government and all Indonesian people. Thanks to Mrs. Dr. Loh Mika Anggraini, Executive Director of Bali Dwipa University, who initiated this webinar. Thank you to all the committees of the 4th anniversary of Bali Dwipa University who have worked hard to prepare series of these naturalist activities. Thank you to the speaker and all webinar participants everywhere. Hopefully, this webinar will be useful for all of us, for Indonesia, and for the world. Om Santi Santi Santi. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wainat Nyana, for a welcome message. And next, I would like to invite the chairman of the Tourism Board, Mr. Ida Bagus Agung Partnyana, to give an introductory remark on Bali tourism and film. Please welcome Mr.
Invite me. Nancy from USA, and of course, Mr. Dr. Ludwig for inviting me for this morning for the presentation. So, yeah, making film in Bali is for sure it will be good, but especially tourism area. Other than hospitality, let me start short sharing about the potential of filmmaking in Bali. Can you help me, bro? Next slide is so let me share something. But during the pandemic, we have some word from the World Bank, some from the UNESCO, and from the central government that mentioned that Bali, we are still what you call it? We still exist, yeah. We still have access on a very potential destination in the world for the tourism destination. Next. Yeah, we have a famous movie shooting location in Bali. This is just several. There's so many. This is just like you name it, like Ubud. Yeah, we have 10 years ago we have a movie from USA, April Love. Yeah, at the time. So Uluwatu. Yeah, and then some Sanur, Gunung Kawi, and Tanah Lot. Well, there's many places we can still to do the movie shooting in Bali. Next. Yeah, I just have information. I got some information. So this is the issue, the challenge, how you can making film in Bali. So the first, you have to network local filmmakers, like a producer local here in Bali, like maybe we can connect with our local cineasts in Bali. So, and then second is we can try to make a proposal, apply to our embassy in your country. So location permit depend of the area, and then your schedule film with the comment of permit inquiry. And then the last is our custom. So film equipment for the reported to the custom department. But here, in this time, I'm from Bali Tourism Board. Will assist you. Will assist you. I will, because this is very important for tourism industry in Bali. Bali Tourism Board will assist you in the future, because the government looking for the making more easy regulation in the future. So Bali Tourism with of course with lawmaker will assist you how to make a good film and success here in Bali. Thank you. I think that's for all. Thank you very much. Have to have a benefit from our sharing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Gus Agung, for the insightful information about the progress of Bali Tourism Board in terms of tourism and filming production in Bali. Thank you very much. And next, I would like to invite the Rector of Bali Dwipa University, Dr. Ketut Suryasih, to give a welcome and opening speech. Time is yours. Ibu Rektor, mohon di-unmute, Bu. Yes, thank you.
The Honorable Chairman of Yayasan Pendidikan Usaha Teknik Bali, Bapak Dr. Insinyur Wayan Ardjana SHMKN, dear speakers, Mrs. Dr. Marta Soligo, how are you, Dr. Marta? It's nice to meet you this morning.
Hello, it's nice to meet you. Thank you.
Mr. Andrea Pesquitin, how are you? It's nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Mr. Ida Bagus Agung Parta Adnyana, good morning. Selamat pagi, Pak Ida Bagus.
Terima kasih. Selamat pagi, Bu. Good morning. Om Swastiastu.
And dear leaders of the Bali Dwipa universities, faculties, and study programs, and webinar participants. First of all, let us offer a heartfelt greetings to God, Ido Sang Yang Widiwasa, Almighty God, for His mercy and grace. We are all in good health, and we should be grateful to be able to gather on the beloved campus Bali Dwipa University virtually. It is an honor for me to be here on this very interesting webinar. I would like to welcome you all, Dr. Marta, Mr. Andrea, Pak Ida Bagus Agung, and all the participants of the webinar to the Bali Dwipa University campus. As a university with historical value, rich in civilization, and rich in culture and creativity, we have 10 study programs. One of those is public relations, including tourism. It is very interesting. Film tourism introduced many tourism destinations, culture, which attract many people to come and communicate. Through communication and film tourism destination, place for education will be known and may become a branding. Though 19 coronavirus disease pandemic make tourism down, reduction in education, ICT could recover it. So it is very appropriate if this year's big film tourism destination, branding and experience webinar event is held. So far, Bali has been known for its various natural beauty that is so enchanting and exotic. On the island of the gods, local wisdom is also stored through its culture that is well known to the public. It is the power of natural charm and Balinese cultural wisdom that later become the strength and foundation of the story of the Tutuga film. This film is the debut of director Firlan Wanalanggong with the psychological drama genre. This Tutuga film is ready to provide an entertaining spectacle for national film coroners. This film specifically raises a story from one of the local wisdom in Bali. This film is a medium to convey many moral messages ranging from forgiveness, self-discovery, and redemption of behavior that it packages with the beauty of Balinese culture. In this film, Firlan chose Rania Putri Sari as the main character, who played the character Amira Janus. Rania has previously starred in Love Letters to Kartini, The Child of Garuda, The Earth is Round, and Your Name is My First Word. The film that carries this horror story will win the hearts of film lovers in the country. This optimism strengthened after this film received a series of awards from international film stages. Among them, won the Best Horror Film Award and Best Cinematography from the Asian Film Awards Academy 2021. Other awards were also received from the Hollywood International Golden Age as the Best International Feature Film and the Best Horror Film from the 7th Andromeda Film Festival. In addition, Tutuge film was also selected as the finalist at the Golden Harvest Film Festival in Tokyo, Japan, 2021. My hope is that this film will give a new color to the national film industry. This film premiered in Indonesia on the 4th of April. Hopefully, this film can be a nutritious entertainment for national film lovers. One of the reasons is that this film packs a mystical story that is fused with the wisdom of Indonesian culture. Even though this film, I learned the Balinese language and culture for me. This is an extraordinary experience, said a woman who plays the character Sasmita. Nina Tutachi, an actress from Bali, who is only 12 years old, conveyed the same joy. He admitted that this is my first film. I was 9 years old at the time of the production of the film. Here I become a little ghost. Of course, this will be an interesting experience, said this little girl from Seminyak, Bali. Please allow, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the sleek walk of the nation's children who are a holy harmony of Pancasila. Well, before we get started, we would like to express my appreciation to the steering committee crew who generously help us make this webinar come true. Mr. Dimas, Mr. Ida Bagus Puja Arimbawa, Mrs. Lo Mika Anggreni, and the rest of the committee crew. We would not have done it without you. We also apologize you all for any inconvenience. And finally, we wish you a happy webinar, discuss rediscovering the values of civilization and destination that already exist in Bali Dwipa. Before I finish the speech, I would like to pray. Let me pray first. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Om Anubhadra Kratawayantu Vistawa. Oh God, guide us to the truth, lead us to the light. May all good thoughts come from all directions. Om Santi, 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 Om. By saying Om Awig Namastu, I declare this webinar is officially open. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ketut Suryasih, for opening this webinar. So participants, so now we are entering the webinar presentation session. The first session theme is Film Tourism Destination Branding and Marketing with Dr. Marta Soligo. I would like to introduce her. I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker today, Dr. Marta Soligo, who will speak to us on film tourism destination branding and marketing. Marta Soligo, PhD, works as a postdoctoral research faculty at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or UNLV. At UNLV, she teaches sociology of leisure. And moreover, Soligo is a visiting professor of sociology of tourism at the Università di Bergamo in Italy for master's course in planning and management of tourism systems. Her recent interests center around key topics in today's travel market, like sustainable development, popular culture, and the post-pandemic recovery. She has presented her works at several conferences by professional associations and international institutions such as UNWTO, United Nations World Tourism Organization, and ASA, the American Sociological Association. Please welcome Dr. Marta Soligo.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So whenever you want, I can share my screen.
Yes.
Can I share it? All right, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, clearly.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Let's see if I can, why my PowerPoint? I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Wait a second. All right, let's share it again. Let's see. Okay. And now you can see the presentation, right? Perfect. All right. So thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today. It's an honor, as I said already, it's an honor for me to be virtually here. And I hope this is just the beginning of a long collaboration with Bali Dwipa University that I will love to visit in person one day. And so thank you so much for inviting me again. I'm honored. So today I'm here to talk about, today, I'm here to talk about film-induced tourism, which is a topic that I was very, very lucky. And I had the opportunity to analyze in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, when I was a visiting scholar for the University of California, Los Angeles. So there is no better place for me than Hollywood to study film tourism, but also I study film tourism in Las Vegas, all over the United States, and in Italy, my home country too. And I collaborate also as a film commission in my country on the Lake Como. So I will be more than happy to share with you right now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I will be more than happy to share with you right now my research, the research that I'm been conducting for years on film-induced tourism, both in the United States and in Italy. And it's the same research that actually I presented at the Global Forum of the United Nations World Tourism Organization in Mexico City in 2014. And in the past 8 years, I have the opportunity, of course, to improve my research and to expand it. So I'm ready to share it with you. So let's start by saying that film, movies, TV series, and music videos too, I will say, are optimal tools to promote the locations where they are filmed. If I tell people Notting Hill Bookshop, they probably are able to connect Notting Hill to London, right? The location where the movie with Julia Roberts was filmed. The same thing, as soon as I ask someone, where was the Lord of the Ring film? Everyone say New Zealand, right? So location have the strong power to promote tourism, to the point that if I tell you a title of a movie, usually you can also understand the location, remember the location. Let's not talk about the third picture, Roman holiday in Rome, Italy, my home country, that really gave a new life to a new image to Rome, this movie. So let's start by saying that movies are very important tools to promote a destination. Why? Well, let's start with a pure marketing concept. Product placement. We all know what is product placement. And this is the slide that I show my students when I teach sociology of tourism and sociology of leisure, and when I talk about film-induced tourism. And this is what I ask them. In this scene of The Wolf of Wall Street, how much do you think Ralph Lauren this is the slide that I show my students paid Leonardo DiCaprio, or the production of the movie to be there? Usually students reply, lots of money, lots of money, right? We all know product placement is very interesting. You see a brand in a movie, the TV series, and you know that usually the brand pays a lot. Then I show students this picture. This is the talented Mr. Ripley filming the beautiful island of Ischia in Italy. This is one of the scenes. And I ask, how much do you think the location of Ischia paid to be there in that movie? And students usually tell me, actually, how much did London pay to be in Notting Hill? How much did Rome pay to be in Roman holidays? Well, the answer is usually zero. There are rare occasions, there are exceptions, but usually zero, right? And here we are talking about location placement, not product placement, which is basically free advertising for the location. So movies are free advertising for the location. And the interesting idea is that movies are unique for the high audience reach. Think of a billboard. If a billboard on the freeway, visit Rome, visit Ischia, in this case, the location here. A billboard lasts for a month, maybe, right? 2 months. A TV advertising, same thing. A radio advertising, same thing. But movies are forever, right? Movies can be seen worldwide, in every corner of the world, can be seen through times. Roman Holiday wasn't filmed yesterday, but still people watch it. So the audience reach of movies is unique, is really unique. So today, I'm going to focus on all location tourism. The Subito, the main expert on film-induced tourism, describe as all location tourism is visiting locations found in the environment that have been featured in a movie, or visits to film sets that have been left at the destination. So basically, it's tourists visiting the locations where movies were filmed, TV series. And during my research, I came up on film tourism. I came up with 3 main findings, 3 main examples of film tourism. Let's start with the first one. The first one is film tourism as a tool for rejuvenation of well-known tourist destinations. For example, Sex and the City was filmed in New York. And here again, I ask my students this question when I show these slides. Does New York, a movie or a TV series, to be known as a tourism destination? Not really. But what about rebranding? What about creating a new image? What about using a technical, a theoretical hospitality model here, the tourism area life cycle by Butler, very famous. I'm not going to explain everything here, but as you can see, at some point, the life of a destination meets a point of stagnation, right? Where the number of, after growth, the number of tourists is stable through time, doesn't grow, doesn't change. So sometimes there is this phase of rejuvenation. Las Vegas, from being the gambling destination capital of the world, is now becoming the nightclub capital of the world. The sports, one of the sports attraction. We have now a hockey team, cuisine, right? So it's important for destinations to diversify themselves, and film tourism is an optimum tool to diversify your offer. Let's think about Rome, for example. Rome is very famous as a cultural tourism destination. Rome is very famous as a religion tourism destination. The Vatican City. But what about movies such as La Dolce Vita by Fellini or Roman Holiday? They really gave a new image to Rome. There is no souvenir shop in Rome that doesn't have a mug with Roman Holiday or La Dolce Vita or a t-shirt, right? So film became an important way to diversify the offer of well-known tourist attractions. So I think this is particularly interesting if we think of well-known tourism destination. The second finding is exactly the opposite. So movie tourism and lesser known destination attractions. This is a beautiful castle in the Piedmont area in Italy, and Piedmont region, northern Italy. Well, very beautiful. So what happens? A few years ago, they filmed a TV series which became very popular, called Elisa di Rivombrosa. Beautiful costumes, beautiful, love stories, romantic. And this was the location, that is the Castello di Aglie Castle. And it was known before, but more as a cultural attraction. Well, after the series was released, it was like buses and buses of tourists started going there. They weren't expecting that. So that was very interesting. So also let's ask the question, how can we manage that? How can we manage when a location, when a destination, when an attraction becomes famous overnight after hosting a movie? But talking about lesser known destinations, I would like to mention a word, a term that to me is key when it comes to tourism, which is system. So when I was in Los Angeles, especially during my research in Los Angeles, I realized one thing about film tourism that was extremely interesting. Film-induced tourism can really create a system between known and lesser known attractions and destinations. For example, I'm sorry, I'm a 90s girl, and I grew up with the TV series Beverly Hills 90210. And why I mention this example, because it's very interesting. Beverly Hills 90210 is filmed in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, which is an extremely popular attraction. Of course, was made famous by movies as well, but Beverly Hills doesn't really need another TV series to become popular, to have tourists there. But the tourist who really likes this series and who goes to Los Angeles is not only going to visit Beverly Hills, but for example, is going to visit the Occidental College in the neighborhood of Highland Park, where some scenes of the movies of the series were filmed. And this is very interesting because Highland Park is far from Beverly Hills. So it's between downtown Los Angeles and the city of Pasadena. And actually, Highland Park is one of my main areas of research. And really, stakeholders there really are looking to develop tourism there. So, it's interesting. And what about Altadena, the third picture up there that you see of a house? The main family of Beverly Hills, the protagonist of Beverly Hills 90210 is the Walsh family. And this is their house. Actually, the inside part was filming studio, but this is the facade of the house. And it is extremely popular. And it's in Altadena, which is pretty far from Beverly Hills. So it's interesting. And as I tell my students, well, the person who visits the Occidental College in the neighborhood of Highland Park, maybe they stop and visit a museum there as well. Maybe they eat in a local restaurant there. So film-induced tourism, given that there are multiple locations, has the power to create a system, which I think is very important when it comes to lesser known attractions. And then the third finding is film-induced tourism to promote a positive image of a destination. So unfortunately, sometimes locations, destination have a bad image to the point that tourists don't want to go there. But after hosting a movie set, the image becomes positive. One example that we have in Italy, unfortunately, is Sicily. Sicily, with the stereotype of mafia, movies such as The Godfather, even though thanks to The Godfather, Sicily and Italian American culture especially became extremely famous. But well, still today, I have people in the United States asking me, if I want to go to Sicily, is it safe? And I'm like, yes, and it's also like one of the most beautiful regions in the world. So what happens is Sicily, for decades, the Sicilian stakeholders were upset for the image they were getting, but something happened. A series became very popular. Inspector Montalbano, which is becoming is also popular in the US as well, in the United States, and is the story of this inspector, and shows beautiful locations, amazing food, to the point that the house where the protagonist lives became a bed and breakfast. And rumor says you have to book it a year in advance if you want to stay there. So it's very, so this TV series really helped Sicily having a new positive image. But here we have an underlying problem, this idea of promoting a positive image. Unfortunately, as a sociologist, I have to say, is strongly intertwined with another problem. And now I'm going to show you a poster, and I think we all know what I'm talking about. For example, movies such as Eat, Pray, Love, that as a coincidence was filmed in Italy, in Bali, and in India. And well, got several critiques. As an Italian, I don't like the parts filmed in Italy are full of stereotypes that don't give a good image of Italy. And these are some of the titles that I found online. And as far as I know, people in Bali weren't happy as well, right? Look at the news here. Well, some people like the movie. Some Italians say, well, that's great. I'm a researcher. I talk with people. I have to conduct research. So some people in Italy told me, that's great. I'm amazing. I don't care if it's stereotype, as long as we have Julia Roberts eating pasta in Rome and tourists go there. I'm fine with that. But as a sociologist, I cannot, avoid underlining the importance of fighting stereotypes. And also because, we don't want tourists to travel to places with stereotypes in mind. They can hurt the local community for real. It can lead to racist behaviors, for example. And this is like, I wrote like my dissertation, my doctoral dissertation on this idea of stereotypes, also given by movies, and how this leads to racism and so on. So this is very important, right? It's very important to talk about topics like this for the host communities, like stereotypes and so on. So now, from my three main findings on film-induced tourism, this research that I did, I would like to broaden the to have to talk more generally about some interesting trends in film-induced tourism, and also some suggestions for stakeholders that I hope you might find interesting from both the professional and academic point of view. So first of all, during COVID-19, I noticed something very interesting. I was studying destination management organizations and how they were able to promote their locations during the lockdown. Tourism is an experience-based, you were saying that before, right, Mika? Tourism is an experience-based sector. How can we make people travel when there is a lockdown, where people are spending their days on their couches, in their houses, right? How can we make them travel? Well, some DMOs posted on their website and social media, posted like the Visit Sweden Destination Management Organization, posted list of movies filmed there, saying, now that there is a lockdown, watch these movies filmed here in our beautiful location. Therefore, when the lockdown is over, you will want to see them in person. So that was very interesting, was a very interesting strategy. This connection between film tourism and COVID-19, I found it very, very interesting. So another thing that I would like to mention is that when we talk about film tourism, yes, we are talking mainly about on-location tourism, right? Visiting the house where the TV series was filmed, visiting the park where the actors was walking, right? But at the same time, we also have to realize that there are, and especially like my research in Hollywood, I noticed that off-location attractions, which Sue Beaton define as, off-location tourism means filming undertaken in a set constructed within the confines of the production unit, away from a naturally occurring setting, such as a town, coastal area, or desert. We have a great example in the United States, Universal Studios, for example, which became also a theme park that I found very interesting as a sociologist of tourism. For example, studios, right? Film in studios, which is interesting because there is the good and the bad of filming in studios with green screens. On the one hand, green screens are a little bit like enemies and competitors of locations because, local stakeholders are not happy. Like, I keep seeing like Italy rebuilt in a studio in Los Angeles, and I'm not that happy. And I'm like, why didn't they go to Italy to film that scene, right? They have a green screen, they put, the Italian Riviera on the green screen, and that's it. Like, this is the scene of the Wolf of Wall Street in the Italian Riviera. I was so happy. Wow, Leonardo DiCaprio filming in Italy. And then I discovered it was a green screen. So it's not that great from that point of view, from on-location tourism. At the same time, we have a new trend, which is studio tourism. So studios where the movies are filmed are now becoming tourist attractions. Again, diversification is very creative field tourism, right? So you have studios, not only Universal Studios, which is a theme park, but studios themselves giving tours. Warner Brothers in Los Angeles give a tour, for example. So that's very, very interesting trend. And we can talk more about that, absolutely, if you want, during the Q&A session. Another aspect that is very interesting when it comes to film tourism is that, again, not only on-location tourism, not only off-location tourism, but there are some attractions, and I think it's particularly interesting for the people here, for these tourism professionals and academics who are here today. So movie-related tourist attractions, they are related to movies, TV series, or music videos, or social media as well. Today, we cannot deny the importance of social media, but filming was not undertaken there. For example, Hollywood. The Hollywood sign, yes, is in several movies, but Hollywood itself, the city of Hollywood, has several attractions that are famous, not because a film was filmed there, but because they are related to movies. For example, the Walk of Fame. People go there to take pictures in front of the star of their favorite celebrity, which is very interesting. And here I would like to highlight a new trend, not a new trend, but a trend that I think it's underestimated, which I really like and I'm studying. It's becoming my main area of interest, which is celebrity tourism. I wrote a lot about celebrity tourism because I think it's fundamental. And I think that we cannot talk about film-induced tourism if we don't mention celebrity tourism and vice versa. So, you know, yes, some movies are filmed on the Walk of Fame, but the Walk of Fame is not famous because it's in movies. It's famous because it's a famous attraction, because people want to take pictures close to the names of their favorite stars. Another attraction is the Dolby Theater, where the Oscar night takes place, that offers tours. Is film related. Movies are not filmed there, but it is strongly connected with film tourism. Absolutely. They offer tours. It's very interesting. You can sit where the stars sit on the Oscars night. It's very, very interesting. What about Starline tours, where you can jump on the bus and tour for 2 hours the houses of the star, going around? Movies are not filmed there, but we cannot deny that if it wasn't for movies, this tour would be meaningless. So hunting for stars and their houses is one of tourists' favorite activity in Hollywood. And going around, seeing the stars' houses, the celebrity houses, even if you cannot see that much, you can see maybe a gate, is very important for tourists. And it's very important also for something that in tourism is key, which is authenticity. Tourists constantly look for experiences and authenticity, and marketing guru Pine and Gilmore tell us experiences and authenticity. So authentic experiences. And here I would like to mention for a second one of my main areas of research, and I publish about it, Hollywood memorial parks, Hollywood cemeteries, where the stars are buried, are becoming tourism attractions, And this was my main research. This is the article that I published on the journal Tourism, Culture and Communication, Rest in Fame, Celebrity Tourism in Hollywood Cemeteries. And I studied the behavior as a sociologist of tourists visiting their favorite stars' burial sites. Marilyn Monroe, Michael Jackson, Elizabeth Taylor, Tyrone Power. My field were 4 Hollywood cemeteries in Los Angeles. And yes, movies are not filmed there, but they are a strong movie film tourism attraction, for sure. They are organizing tours, increasingly organizing tours in cemeteries. And I spent hours and hours, as I say, studying tourism behavior, especially for young generations who Marilyn Monroe's fans today didn't have the opportunity to meet her in person. So it's interesting to see how they feel like they're meeting her in person almost by visiting her grave, for example. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic, and I will be happy to talk more about that if you have questions in the Q&A answer session. And also the idea, again, celebrity tourism and film tourism, key, absolutely. Now, I would like to dedicate the last part of my speech to a key topic right now, fundamental. Film-induced tourism, communities, and sustainability. Because film-induced tourism is great, is a great tool, but is a powerful tool and needs to be managed in the right way. Because otherwise, there are some risks, like this. The movie The Beach by Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, during the filming, they destroyed part of the island in Thailand where the movie was filmed. Animal species, where they were damaging animal species, the nature. So that was very, very bad. And what happened is that after they filmed the movie, over tourism on the island, all over tourism on that beach, to the point that they had to close the beach completely to tourists. And we know when tourism stops, what happens to communities, right? Is not that great. Absolutely is not that great. So it's important to understand the power of film-induced tourism and its relation with sustainability and communities. I give you another example. The Joker stairs in New York, where the movie Joker was filmed, the iconic scene with the Joker on these stairs. There is a problem. Joker stairs and the problem with meme tourism. So after the release of the movies, so many tourists crowded the area, and people and local community members were not able to commute anymore to have their normal walk to work and back, because they were literally invaded by tourists that who wanted to take a picture, as we saw in the previous slide, like these people, right? Tourists were dressing up and behaving and posing like the Joker. Look, they even have now a pin on Google Maps. And look at this, tweet by a Bronx resident. It's really called the Joker stairs on Google now. Please, if you're reading this and you're not from around here or ever been to the Bronx, Yankee Stadium does not count, please do not come here. Thanks, Bronx resident. Not easy. And, this article says, for Joker enthusiasts, it's a fun photo. For Bronx resident, it's respectful. Simply put, the Bronx isn't a movie set. It's a real place where people live. It belongs to someone else's commute. So we have to kind of avoid this way of bad film-induced tourism. And here, what is the solution, though? What is the solution? Well, Sue Beaton mentioned an amazing sentence in her book, an amazing quote, which to me is key and I love, which is, it is unlikely that tourism itself is bad. It is simply badly planned and managed. And this is key. Tourism itself is not bad. It's the management that needs to be done in the right way. And here, very quickly, I would like to show you what Sue Beaton suggests in her book, very quickly, which is community planning has to be key, has to be inclusive and participatory. So the community has to be there. We need a roundtable planning strategy. We have to create economic and social progress for the whole community with its active participation. Let's involve the community in tourism planning. And the key word here is, once again, system. Let's create a system where filmmakers, members of the community, local stakeholders are involved. Who is the main subject in this sense that can really help? A subject which is key, and I think it's underestimated. People don't talk enough about one thing, which is film commission and film offices. Film offices, according to AFCI, is a specialized office under the authority of a government entity or administrative office with the purpose of promoting the region through the development of film, video, and multimedia production. So film offices are fundamental to create that system between institutions, movie industry and filmmakers and local communities. And I talk as the collaborator of the Lecco Film Commission on the Lake Como. And we are really the center here. Film commission, film offices can be an amazing tool. They can dialogue with the community. You don't know how many times I said, as a member of my film commission, I sat with the community members, with the locals, and I say, what do you want from film tourism? What's important for you? What annoys you? When they stop the entire street, the entire traffic to film a scene, where is the problem there? And then we were talking with politicians, local politicians. How can we do better? That we're getting mad because we were talking with the filmmakers who were asking us to shut down the entire, to close the entire street to film. So, and also we were talking with the tourism board. So dialogue is fundamental, and film offices, and I can talk again more about it, have a key. If they work well, they are public. They are really the voice between the community, institutions, and the movie industry. So this is really key. And here is 30 minutes, and thank you so much. And it was a pleasure, and I hope you found it helpful. And I stop sharing my screen.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Marta Soligo. It was very insightful keynote of you. So give applause to Dr. Marta Soligo.
Thank you.
Excellent. So yeah, really enjoying your presentation. It covers all about film tourism, from the opportunities that it brings to the challenges. Not only economic opportunities, but also the challenges, social environmental pressure that sometimes can create the resident irritability. And also we know that we learn from Dr. Marta Soligo that film tourism also have its own ecosystem, which is in normal. I mean, the tourism in general actually have the stakeholders, which is the academics, the community, the industry, also government and media. For film tourism, they have also involved the film industry, especially. So we hope that in the future, there will be a mutual benefit between the industry of film and tourism industry too. And also, you see that there is an issue that brought up not only about the opportunities given from the products of tourism and innovation of location like studio tours, any memorabilia, and also the opportunities to people to work the job given by film tourism as well. And also there is also issues in authenticity that you brought up in your presentation, and representation, of course, like where from Italian perspective that eat, pray, love is tasteless, for example. That's very good, that issue that we have to deal with after the film. All right, so thank you very much, so insightful, and
thank you.
We welcome for participants to ask your questions. You may type your questions in the chat box, or you want to say something, you can share your screen and unmute the speaker.
Thank you so much. Yes, my audio is not that great, so maybe if I don't understand something I tell you, you can type it. Thank you. I apologize in advance.
All right. So, yes. So far, we haven't got any question yet. Perhaps we so really enjoyed your presentation. All right. So, yes, I will ask you.
I can talk more.
Yes, I will.
I can talk as much as you want.
Yes, we are just still in the pandemic and not over yet, actually not officially over in some countries, but travel is already happening currently. And you address the film entertainment during the pandemic, which is people, most of us stay home, and like in Sweden tourism, they mentioned that there are some film featuring Sweden, and they can visit the place after the pandemic, right? And now we are in the era of internet entertainment services, like such as Netflix, Amazon Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Amazon Prime Video, etc. And we also have the internet movie database, which is all digital. So, and also at the same time, we, the film lovers, I mean, the film spectators also give their voluntarily review in the user-generated content like TripAdvisor. So, can you comment on this trend?
Absolutely, yes. So we know you mentioned the platform, right? Like platforms like Netflix, who grew, like experienced an exponential growth during the pandemic. Absolutely. It's interesting because I'm noticing like an increasing interest, especially by TV series in those platforms towards locations. I'm noticing that increasingly, which is, I'm surprised, they are when they do some interviews in Hollywood, they are starting to interview the fascinating figure of the location manager, which before was ignored. But location managers, if we have some students here of the university, that I hope so, think about location manager as a possible future job, because I think it's going to be growing in the future. Location manager, so it's the person that the production hires to scout locations. And I'm noticing an increasing importance of this figure. So it's telling us something, right? Which was parallel to the growth of Netflix, that of course, unfortunately, because the pandemic was a very, very sad event, brought. So yes, it's interesting also because every time I go to a conference now, I get asked, how do I see the future of after the whole tourism world moved online, and also virtual reality, where literally online you could walk through museums from your house without even having to take a plane. How is the future? Where I still think that tourism is a strongly experience-based phenomenon based on the senses. So tourists are going to go back to travel again for sure. That I'm sure they are not gonna keep being on their couch and live. We are seeing already a particularly relevant growth of tourism in terms of recovery. But for sure, the pandemic taught us what I said before. I think it's wrong to say that the pandemic created issues in tourism. I think that just the pandemic brought to the surface, uncovered the problem that were already there, such as not including the local communities, not having a good system. So I think that film-induced tourism, being a sort of niche tourism, can be a good answer, if well done, to, after the pandemic is not over yet, but experts are thinking of the post-pandemic recovery in terms of what can we do. And I'm thinking like diversify your offer. We have a problem of over-tourism. Okay, let's try to move those over-tourism flows to lesser known attractions. What about film tourism, right? What about making niche attractions, niche tourism, which can be film tourism, for example, movie locations. So the pandemic really gave us so many insights on how to design the tourism offer in terms of diversification, blending the virtual world, the Netflix world, and the real world, experience-based tourism. So it's interesting.
Yes, thank you very much. That you already mentioned in your presentation that management is everything here. It's not about film tourism is not bad, tourism is not bad, but the management itself will be the key for the successful destination.
So let's hope. So my hope is that the pandemic was bad and the world stopped. And I hope that while the world stopped, tourism stakeholders were able to stop and think, how can we do better?
Yes, thank you very much. And you also highlights in your keynote that there is an issue of I mentioned before, authenticity and representations. How we deal with that issue actually from the perspective of destination management organization or from local community that you already addressed?
It's very interesting because, of course, the interest of the movie production is not to give an authentic representation. Yes, it can be, but the interest of the movie production is to make a movie about, that makes money. So we are noticing finally, and I'm very happy, an increasing interest in movie production in showing how things really are. In TV series, our things really are more from a more realistic point of view. But it's interesting how, you know, one of the most famous sociologists of tourism, Uri, who unfortunately died recently, talks about the tourist gaze, right? The cultural filter, the mediatized gaze that tourists have when they travel. And sometimes our expectation when we go to a destination is really filtered by the movies, is mediated by the movies, by the TV series we saw. So it's very important dialogue. And I think it's very important as sociologists to, you know, and I'm so happy to have like meetings like this one, like I'm having today, because talking about stereotypes, talking about how stereotypes can lead to bad on the tourist versus community is fundamental. So also broaden the discussion on stereotypes and movies. In Hollywood, they are doing that, you know, they are trying to do that, but let's try to you know, to broaden it more.
Yes, I think the spectators of the audience should be given the correct version, yeah, from the destination viewpoint, not just for entertainment or just for satisfying the money-making purpose.
Also because exactly, I remember you mentioned a super interesting example about bikes, right? After Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
So yeah, so basically sometimes it happens that they look that after, it's interesting because the movie creates stereotypes, and then to make more money, the destination itself, the locals come up with in sociology of tourism is called stage authenticity by sociologist McKennell, you know, to basically create a fake reality to make tourists happy. It's very interesting. So, but it is extremely risky, you know what I mean? We're talking about cultural heritage, you know, on sale, basically, like selling your cultural heritage. But what if we're talking about countries or poor destinations that strongly depend on tourism, that they have to, you know, make compromises to survive? So it's not that easy. And I'm against criticizing those communities who, you know, the only means they have is tourism, so they have to make tourists happy, unfortunately. So let's hope in more mindful and educated tourists that understand, really are able to accept the culture as it is.
Yes, I agree with you that to avoid the future misconception about the local culture, which is sometimes it's sensitive issue, I think the filmmakers should consult with the local community as the custody of the local culture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it is very tricky, especially with the crisis of the pandemic, you know, it's hard.
Yes. Yes, yeah, absolutely. You're right. Then, yes, so I think it is wrap up. And thank you so much for your insightful presentation and your answers to these questions. So thank you very much. Give our round of applause to Dr. Marta Soligo.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I type in the chat my email. So if someone has like other questions, so if you want to contact me, please feel free. I will be happy to answer any questions. So yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I hope to meet you all in person one day. I hope to visit beautiful Bali soon.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Marta Soligo. So I hope that you will stay here, that we have a closing session later on that we can take picture at the end of this webinar. Thank you so much. I will get back to you soon. So do you have any questions? All participants, if you have any questions, please type in the chat box so I can read it for you, and so the presenter can answer for your question. And now we're moving to the next presenter with the topic of filming production experience in Bali, people, place, and process. Here with us, Andrea Pasketin. I'd like to introduce our distinguished speaker, Mr. Andrea Pasketin, Producers have to wear multiple hats, and Andrea is no exception. Born and raised in Italy, he moved to Hollywood to work in film production and live events. As a pilot and Army veteran, he learned to balance the tactical accuracy of the projects he works on, whilst also maintaining entertainment value. He has experience running teams in the United States, Indonesia, and Italy. Without further ado, please welcome the one and the only Andrea Pasquetin.
Hello, good morning. Selamat pagi. So I'm assuming everything goes well and you can hear me. I'm going to share my screen real quick and you should be able to see. I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself, and then I will show you a couple of videos, and I'll show you a bunch of pictures, because I figure it's better to, I mean, my job is to tell stories through images, so it's better than me just speaking. But tying up to what Dr. Soligo was saying, the power of location, the power of images, I moved to the United States from Italy because of all the TV shows and films that I watched. So that's exactly what she was saying. The power of, it's not just tourism. It can also be somebody like me who grows up in a different country and watches a lot of TV shows and decides, wow, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to live. So I basically have been living in the United States for about 16 years now. And in 2019, me and my friend Brian Tan, who's a fantastic director, we ended up in Indonesia, in Sumatra. We were working for a local company in Sumatra, and we were doing a commercial for them. And that was right about when the pandemic happened. And so we both found ourselves in Indonesia with not a lot to do. And we ended up going to Bali. It was my first time in Bali, and I was immediately smitten by Bali. And me and Brian, we were sitting around and we decided to do something. We're both filmmakers, and we decided to shoot something. And so, long story short, we ended up shooting a short horror film, which ended up doing pretty good. And then after that, we decided to come back the following year and to shoot something more powerful, so to speak. So what I want to do right now, I want to show you the trailer for the first short film that we shot. It's called Deep Tissue. And then I'll show you the trailer for the latest short film that we shot, which hasn't been released yet. It's called Anomaly. And then I'll talk a little bit more about the experience of filming in Bali in particular. So here we go.
Hey babe, how's Bali? Listen, I really don't like the way we left things, and I understand you need space, but I really think we should talk, you know? Call me, okay?
So that was Deep Tissue. We shot it in 2019. And this is the latest one we shot. It's called Anomaly, and it was shot in the Sanur area in Bali. So let me show you the trailer for this one.
All right, boys and girls, you know the drill. Get in, get us intel on the anomaly, and get out.
We need to move fast.
I concur. Last thing I want is a third arm.
Try having a third leg.
Pull back!
They've retreated. We should pull back.
There's no way back. We're finishing this mission. Go!
We have eyes on the anomaly. I don't know what we're looking at.
And that was it. I just want to make sure you guys were able to hear the sound, correct? Or I did this wrong. Just want to make sure.
Yes, it is
I don't
fine.
hear anything.
It is fine.
Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure. So this was the location where we shot. So primarily, and I'm going to just go through a bunch of pictures for the background while I speak, but primarily my job as a producer is to help the director with his vision, his or her vision, depending on who the director is. So we start with the script. And then obviously the first thing as a producer, as a team, we have to do is determine what is the best location for a film, for our film. Obviously, if the film is set in, outside the Colosseum in Rome, as a producer, I can't say, let's just shoot it in, in America or in France, because that's a very specific location. So the first thing we do as a production team, we look at the script and see where do we have to go. And there's a lot of times where there's flexibility. A lot of stories are not specifically linked to a location. So there's a little bit of leeway over there. The second thing, once we kind of determine what location fits best for our story, me personally as a producer, I have to look at all the logistic aspects. Where is this location? How far is it from where our office is? Do we need to get permission? Who owns the land? Who owns the property? Do we have to, bring trucks, toilets? Do we need air conditioning? Do we need food? Because every time we do, and you're gonna see throughout some of the pictures, this is, by the way, this is Brian, this is the director. Making a movie, it's not a one-person job. It literally takes a village. On this set, on Anomaly, we had about 100 people. So every time we move, there's a lot of people involved. So personally, the location, just because the location looks good on camera, doesn't mean we can actually use it, because there's so many logistics behind it. Where do we park all the trucks? Where do we park talent? Where do we put the office? And then we also have to look, do we need light for this location? Do we need to shoot at day? Do we need to shoot at night? If we shoot at night, do we have access to power for the generators? So this is all the not so glamorous aspect of filmmaking, but that me particularly as a producer, I have to worry about, because it all ties into the story. For this particular project, we were extremely lucky. We found this abandoned park in Sanur. And as you can see from the pictures, the location by itself, it's beautiful and speak to exactly what we're doing. One important aspect of location scouting and film looking for locations is not only that it matches the story, but you do want your location to be part of the story, not just the background where the story happens. Obviously, there's different levels of that. But for example, even just a simple story that's set in an apartment, maybe on a superficial level, as the audience, you don't really pay attention to everything, but there's a lot of detail that goes through when you start setting up the location. What kind of environment it is, if let's say we're in a couple's house, are there going to be pictures of the couple? Is there going to be what type of couch, what type of furniture? Are they clean? Are they dirty? And these are all subtle informations that as filmmakers we give to the audience to complement the characters. So it's not just what you hear on film, it's also what you see in the background and what you don't see. Years ago when I was in film school, one of my professors pointed out something that I always use it as an example. When let's say, for example, you're watching a film and there's a scene that's set in a city, New York City, for example, or in Jakarta. You have your two main actors having a conversation. But if you don't have people in the background, it doesn't feel real, because everybody knows that in a city, there's supposed to be people in the background. But that's an element that as an audience, you don't really pay attention to. You pay attention to the people in the background because you just focus on the scene that's happening in front of you. But as a filmmaker, that's all part of the detail. as you can see in this picture, this is kind of the same locations, but we added some smoke. That also goes into helping us showcase what goes in front of the camera. So all this ties into our choice of location. Like I said, does it fit in the story? Is it easy to shoot? How much does it cost? And does it have all the resources that we need? And that's one of the great things about Bali. Indonesia in general, Bali specifically, there's a lot of beautiful places. There's a lot of beautiful locations that are unique, that are exotic, that are very accessible, that have a lot of infrastructure. So as filmmakers, we look at them and we say, wow, for example, the location that we used is unique. It's really nothing like that in the world. And if we had to build that location on a studio, it would cost a lot of time and a lot of money. So being able to have this location already like this, with all the graffiti, with all the trees already grown, it was such a time saver and a money saver, and also added so much to the story we were trying to tell. So that's one of the unique and beautiful Bali, is that it has a lot of places like this. The other great thing about Bali is that it has already a lot of talent. And by talent, I mean the people and the crew. Because as filmmakers, that's also our biggest concern. Like I said, it takes a village to make a film. So we need people, we need help, right? So having people already in Bali who know the island, who have worked in the island, who know where to get equipment, it's incredibly valuable. Because as a filmmaker, as a producer, I don't have to bring people from the United States all the time. That saves me money on flights, hotels, food, and et cetera, et cetera. And it gives me the added value of having local people who know what they're talking about. And if I say to them, hey, we need to look for an abandoned bus or an abandoned plane. There's a lot of abandoned planes in Bali. They tell me, hey, come over here. We know exactly where to shoot. So that's one of the greatest advantages that we had in Bali. And that's why after our first film, after Deep Tissue, we decided to do something else. We decided to do Anomaly because we saw the potential of the island and the people. We met some great friends. We met some great production people in Bali. So that's kind of why we pushed. And that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to push forward to be able to shoot more projects in Bali, because me and Brian and our friend Austin, who's the director of photography for this, we both recognize the potential that Bali has. And like Dr. Soligo said, it's not just to make films, it can also create tourism. And speaking of that for a moment, once we come as a production company, we come on a place and shoot a film, it's not just the three of us. It's not 5 people. It's not 10 people. Like I said, we employed about 100 people on this production. So you can imagine the added value that a film production company brings, because we are employing local people. All these people may need hotel or a villa to stay. So we are supporting the local economy by buying hotel rooms and renting out villas. And then we all have to eat. And we all know that the food in Bali is amazing. And so we're going to eat more than 3 times a day. And so we are going to help a lot of local people by supporting the local economy. That's one of the greatest advantages of having production. So this all ties in the reasons why we chose to shoot in Bali. It's the great locations, the great people, and the great assets that we can find in Bali. This picture is Salvita de Corte. She's our lead. She's Balinese. She's local. And so basically, as a producer, my first concern is, can we shoot here? Does it look good? And how much is going to cost us? And that is going to bring me to one point that I want to make. Like Dr. Soligo was mentioning, a lot of films right now shoot behind a green screen. That's mostly done for time constraint. It takes a lot of money, a lot of time to take 100 people and send them to a different part of the world just to shoot a simple scene. However, as filmmakers, we always prefer to shoot on location because you have a completely different experience, not only as a crew and cast, but ultimately on the film, on the final product. As you can see, if we had to recreate all this, where we shot Anomaly on a green screen, it would have been very time consuming and it would have not looked like this at all. So as filmmakers, we always want to shoot on a live location as much as possible. But like I said, sometimes we cannot do it because the budget doesn't allow it, or there's no place to put all the trucks, or there's no place to, or, you know, there's maybe an airport underneath, so we can't shoot sound because the airplanes keep flying. So there's a lot of logistics to go through in choosing a location. But we always prefer to shoot in a live location. I mean, you can see this location, it's basically a third character. You know, it adds so much. And this is my last point I want to make. Obviously, my primary goal is to make sure that the amount of money that we have is enough to do what we're trying to do. And that's why a lot of times when we choose where to go, we also choose based on where we can get more value for our money. And that's why it's extremely important to have the support of the local government and being able to have tax incentives, being able to have tax rebates. Because as a filmmaker, for example, if I look at a script and say, oh, this would be great to shoot in Indonesia, it's going to cost me X amount of money to shoot in Indonesia. But if I go to Malaysia, where there's a 30% tax rebate, it's actually going to cost me less money. So as much as I want to shoot in Bali, I may be forced to shoot somewhere else because the government somewhere else is going to give me an incentive to spend money over there and save me money in the process. Because ultimately, it's about the love of filmmaking. It's about the passion. It's about telling stories. At the end of the day, we all need money. We all have to pay rent. We all have to pay food. We all have to pay our cast and crew. We all have to pay for locations. So as a producer, I have X amount of money. I need to make that money gives me as much value as possible. So I have to make choices, and as filmmakers, you have to make choices. So having the ability of the government to say, let us help you, it's extremely, extremely valuable. And it may not necessarily be tax credit. It might also be, we'll waive all the fees for the visas for the people who come to Bali to work. So that already saves some money for the production. You know, here, don't rent an hotel. We'll rent an hotel for you, or we'll give you some discounts where you can rent some equipment. If you need to bring equipment, we're going to waive the import taxes. So there's a lot of different ways that the government can help. But in order for Bali to become the Bollywood, the potential that it has to become Bollywood, it's very important to have the support of the local government. So I'm just going through the last pictures here. And then if I have a little bit of time, actually. So I stopped my screen share for just 1 second. If I have just a little bit of time, I wanted to show you something else. Yes, I wanted to show you, just to conclude my presentation, I wanted to show you, we were actually, because of our Anomaly feature, we were actually featured in CNN Indonesia. So in the last pictures over here, you can see the amount of people that it takes to make a project. And I will conclude with just showing you this little clip that basically talks about what happened with us in on CNN Indonesia, and then I'll stop.
Terima kasih Anda masih bersama kami. Sebuah perusahaan produksi yang berlokasi di Los Angeles dan Bali akan merilis sebuah film pendek yang digarap di Pulau Dewata. Film ini dibintangi Salvita De Corte dan Mike Lewis.
Alright boys and girls, you know the drill. Get in, get us intel on the anomaly, and get out.
We need to move fast.
Film berjudul Anomaly ini diproduksi oleh Good Form, sebuah perusahaan produksi film yang berlokasi di Los Angeles, Amerika Serikat dan Bali, menceritakan tentang 5 anggota pasukan elit yang ditugaskan ke sebuah reruntuhan kuno di tengah hutan rimba untuk mengamankan sebuah misteri anomali yang menunjukkan aktivitas paranormal aneh. Apa yang terjadi di sana ternyata di luar dugaan, dan pasukan tersebut harus berjuang melawan dirinya sendiri untuk bertahan hidup. Disutradarai oleh Brian L. Tan yang memiliki pengalaman mengerjakan efek visual sebuah film blockbuster Hollywood, film ini disebutnya terinspirasi dari pengalaman yang menetap di Bali selama pandemi.
I've been living in Bali for the past 3 years, on and off since the pandemic, and I was kind of inspired by a lot of the things that I saw in Bali, especially the idea of karma. And so I was kind of inspired by the notion that we are sometimes our own worst enemy, and those that live by the sword die by the sword. And so it was kind of the cyclical kind of ecosystem that Bali kind of influenced. And I wanted to show it in a very commercial kind of action-packed Hollywood way.
Proses pengerjaan film yang berlangsung selama 3 hari menjadi tantangan tersendiri bagi para pemain dan kru yang seluruhnya bermukim di Bali. Seperti membuat sebuah portal ke dunia lain di tengah hutan dan memanfaatkan waktu sebaik mungkin menggunakan helikopter yang hanya bisa digunakan selama 30 menit. Meski begitu, Mike Lewis yang berperan sebagai Charlie dalam film tersebut mengaku mendapatkan pengalaman yang luar biasa dalam proses produksi film Anomaly.
Brian was saying about every one of us putting our hearts in there to make something special out of a 3-day shoot, but like really put everything that we could into those 3 days to make something like when you see the film, you're going to be like, can't believe you shot that in 3 days. And our goal, as Brian said, was, to show the international audiences or even producers around the world how much bang for your buck you can get if you shoot in Indonesia.
Anomaly untuk sementara hanya akan tayang dalam ajang festival film seperti Festival Film Hong Kong sebelum dapat disaksikan secara streaming. Film pendek ini suatu saat diharapkan dapat diangkat menjadi film layar lebar yang dapat dinikmati oleh penonton. Arya Dita Utama, Andika Marianto, Jakarta.
Okay, so that's my last slide, and I just want to conclude by first of all thanking you for having me here. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I'd like to conclude by pointing out we are extremely invested into helping create like a strong film industry in Bali. We're currently working on 3 projects. We have 2 feature films we would like to shoot in Bali and a TV show, because we truly believe that the island has a great potential, like I mentioned, in terms of locations, in terms of people, and in terms of crew. It's just very important that we also have the support of the local government and the support of places like university that can help us create future generation have people that can help us work. At the end of the day, we all have a passion for film, and like Dr. Saligo was saying before, during the pandemic, everybody was at home watching films. So now there's a lot of demands for content, and it's exactly the right time to push on the accelerator and keep going as fast as we can to creating and developing a film industry. Because particularly, you don't want just Americans like us come to Bali, shoot, and leave. Ideally, you want to build a local, a Balinese film production that can sustain itself throughout the year. And that's kind of what our goal is, what we're trying to do. So, terima kasih banyak. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Terima kasih banyak, Andrea Pasketin. Give our round of applause to Andrea. Excellent. Yes, congratulations for the Anomaly, and we're looking forward for the longer version, in the Hollywood. All right. So
that's what we're working right now.
Yes, you're going to continue the filming in Bali in August, right?
So me and Brian are going to be in August. We're doing some location scouting. We're not going to be shooting yet. what we're working on right now, we're expanding Anomaly. We want to expand it into a feature film, obviously to be shot in Indonesia and Bali. Then we have another TV show that we want to shoot in Bali. And then we have one more film always shot in Bali that we're trying to develop. So we're hoping that by next year, we'll be able to shoot something on a longer basis, more of a feature film story. Ideally by the end of the year, but probably realistically by the beginning of next year. So that's our goal. So we'll be in Bali in August. And also simply because we both love Bali. It's just a beautiful island to be, and the people are so amazing. And so I am, maybe a little biased, but I do like spending my time in Bali as much as I can. So that's why we're going to be there as well.
Yes, thank you very much. So insightful, regarding the behind the screen. Actually, what we see in the movie is all the end result, right? After the long process, exhausting, and also challenging. You said that you raised an issue about the people, the logistics thing, and the finding locations. And of course, this filming production should be supported by all stakeholders in the destination, because anyway it features the destination, so it should bring the mutual benefit for all. Not only we see that film industry should self-fund it, like what you're doing currently with your team, but also hopefully in the future that we have our audience from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy here, some of them here, and hopefully that your message can be heard by our government. That can bring incentives like tax incentive, for example, or the accommodation facilities during the filming that will be helpful, that can encourage the filming production in many locations in Indonesia, because we have beautiful places and also, extraordinary people. I think the people also part of the landscape here, in Indonesia. And in filming too. And so, yes, I haven't got any question yet, but I'll check first. There is one question. I have to read here in the chat box. All right, it's addressed to Andrea. So the question's from Suranta Brahmana. What do you think about the opportunities of XR studio technology of filmmaking for tourism industry? And what is the most threats?
You mean XR studios? Is that what you said?
XR studio technology.
Is that the one where you basically have a gigantic TV show? Is that what he means?
Yes.
Basically like a virtual set. That's what we're talking about. Well, like I mentioned, primarily it's always great to be able to shoot on an actual location, because it also helps the actors themselves when they're physically in a location as opposed to being on a green screen. But I think there's a lot of advantages also on the virtual sets, which basically, for those who are not familiar, it's the evolution of the green screen. So instead of having the actors in front of the green screen and put in the background later, you actually can have the background already there, and the actors can see it and can interact with it, and you can film it in real time. So that it has a lot of potential. Obviously has a potential to make things cheap, because you don't have to send all the actors across the world. But it does lack that physical aspect of being in an actual location, and the little minutiae. As an example, when we shot Anomaly, we went to do a location scouting. So we went to look for the place in Sanur. And we discovered the cave where we ended up shooting the portal scene. We discovered it by accident. We didn't know it was there. So we were just walking around the property, and suddenly I saw like this little cave, and I walked over there, and I was like, this could be perfect. And so that actually was better than what we could have imagined. So if we were doing something just on a virtual set, we would have missed it. We would have to be coming up with, our own ideas of a location, but we would be limited to our own imagination, and as opposed to having nature or the physical place actually give us more inspiration. So there's pros and cons on both. I do think they're not necessarily exclusive. You could develop that technology in Bali, and you could have a virtual studio in Bali to shoot some of the required scenes in the virtual studio, and then shoot the rest in the actual locations in Bali. That's something that could actually be done. It would actually be a smart investment to do something like that. Another important investment would also be post-production. We were quite lucky. We found some good companies in Bali who already handle post-production. But that also could be an added investment. We partner with the movie studio Bali. They have a movie studio near Ubud. So that's also another important part, already having those pieces where you can do interior shots in a studio and then go and do the exterior shots, or you can go into a virtual studio and then do the exterior part. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you so much for the answer. I hope that explains everything, that the physical location still matters. It's preferable too. Yes, but again, I would like to address that there are pros of cons here, right? Using physical or extended reality studio that could be from the film production point of view will be, you do some good and negative and positive things. And in regards to the physical location, especially, so filmmaking can give pressure to the environment at a certain level. So how does as in your project, you address the issue of environmental conservation or sustainability? Do you have any strategy during the filming?
Yes, that's a very important point. Because a film shoot is so big, it does have a huge footprint, which can be a benefit, but can also be a negative. Because everywhere we go, like I said, you're moving 100 people, so it's a lot of food waste, it's a lot of water waste. So what we try to do is, one aspect, you can, instead of having small water plastic bottles, you have like bigger bottles, and then you encourage people to reuse their own bottles. So that's one way that you can kind of limit the environmental aspect. Then when it comes to generators, you can use, instead of using regular generators, you can use biofuel generators, or you can try to use as much as local electricity as you can. We obviously all the time try not to leave trash behind, to leave the place as better as we first found it. As far as like an issue like Dr. Saligo was telling before about maybe the beach that ended up being damaged because of the film, the beach. That's something that's a little bit trickier, it's a little bit harder to foresee as when you're actually shooting the film. So primarily our goal when we're shooting is to make sure that we're not disturbing the environment. We actually, me and Brian, when we were in Sumatra, we shot a couple of commercials for a conservationist. And so we're very aware of the issue of being able to come to a place, realize it's treat it with respect it deserves, especially in a place like Bali where we may end up shooting in religious locations. So that's always the consideration that's taking place.
Okay, thank you. You already have a strategy to deal with the environmental issues, right? Because filming is a production, should be that is consuming the resources, available resources in the film sites, right? Well, we thank you for your presentation, which is very insightful today. Thank you very much, Andrea, for sharing your filming experience in Bali. So give our applause to Andrea. And we come to the end of this webinar. I would like to make a concluding remarks and recommendation from our webinar today that film tourism or screen tourism should be well managed to bring mutual benefits for both tourism industry and film industry. Film tourism should be help to communicate the image and identity of tourism destination. As more and more countries, their cultures and tourism destinations are displayed on screen, it is important for policymakers and government and key stakeholders within the tourism sectors to establish policies to make their destination attractive for film producers. Film production should create less pressure on culture and natural environment. The increasing tourism activity within the destination following the success of the movie should be managed for destination sustainability. And therefore, a strategy for film tourism should be developed to promote tourism and the consumption of local culture, to deal with the issues of authenticity and representation, to start investing in skills and training for people to develop the local films and creative sectors, to ensure a high level of talent in film industry, to improve infrastructure and production capacity, and also to integrate tourism and culture to develop the global audience's understanding. So now we are at the end of this webinar. We would like to thank you and our highest appreciation for Bali Tourism Board, all speakers and participants for the insightful contribution to our webinar today. And may I quote from Maya Angelou, which was also mentioned in the movie Hitch in 2005, starred by Will Smith, that you can't really know where you're going until you know where you've been. Our webinar today has given us better clarity and understanding what steps to take, the vision and ideas to navigate and to shape the future of tourism, especially for Bali and Indonesia as emerging film tourism destination. We are all hope that more and more wonderful and beautiful places and the people in Bali and Indonesia will be featured in movies internationally in order to communicate and promote socio-cultural understanding, to open more economic opportunities while campaigning the environmental sustainability. So we come to the end of this session and we invite you for the photo session. Would you please turn on your video? And admin, please direct for the photo session. Thank you.
Okay, we are now taking the picture together on the mark of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Once again. Okay, on the mark of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, done.
Thank you. Thank you again for joining the webinar Film Tourism Destination Branding and Experience. Happy anniversary Bali Dwipa University. Be creative, innovative, excellent. Have a great day everyone and see you next time.
Terima kasih, Bang.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mata.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, everyone.